Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. I'm here with Mr. Tate Mathews. Tate, our last show of calendar year 2023. We've got the Christmas holiday coming up. We've got New Year coming up, so we need to go out with a bang
Finish
today.
strong.
Finish strong today. Not 23-24 into just calendar year 23.
That's right. Yeah, we roll July 1 to June 30th. But again, we made it through another year. Longest, we are the Simpsons of what, WCTV? Would that be the proper?
That's correct.
I'm excited, man. You're getting ready. I noticed you got your hair done.
Oh,
Looks very good.
thank you.
So you're getting ready for the Christmas holidays. Miss Barb told you to clean up, huh?
She did. But I'm a little jealous of you because you get to save that money.
That's correct.
But maybe I shouldn't be jealous. I don't know. But I wish I had that
I
beard.
do have to spend it. It's not as expensive, but I have to spend it on this.
And it looks good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Cuts and Blessings. They're Wilco. They're Wilco natives. They do a great job overall. Is that 2nd Avenue?
I think that's second, yes.
So it's downtown. Check them out.
Fans of the show, Mom and Dad Joins, they always send me messages about your beard.
beard. Thank you.
They like the beard. They even asked if it was real one time because it's so bushy.
And no, I don't put dye in it. Come on, man.
Tate, let's talk Mr. Football. I think I was surprised. Nothing against the young man from Southwind, but as we talked about, Eric Hazard from Page was a finalist, Dominic Reed, Centennial finalist. What I thought personally was Dominic was going to win it based on regular season, and I thought we would be going, man, there's groups of people thinking if we'd included the playoffs, Eric would win it. But I really thought one of them would win it. Did you?
I thought they'd split.
You think they split votes?
I think they split votes, and I also think that kid, that young man from Southwind, the stats were just, they jump off the page. And again, like I said, I'm not necessarily criticizing it because they don't really have time to do it, but I know how it's done. It's all done from 8 to 12, 8 to 12:30 one day. And, you know, I think there's guys in West Tennessee that voted for Southwind no matter what. And the stats justified it, so you could sell that. And then I think there's probably people in East Tennessee that they don't really know Eric Hazard, Dom Reed, and if you just look at the stats, then the kid from Southwind was the obvious favorite. Again, going back to what we talked about earlier in the year, and I know he won't change, and I wouldn't change it any other way. It's a little bit of a broken system. Coach Stewart could have got Dom Reed 4 more touchdowns against Glencliff if he wanted to. You know what I'm saying? So it's done that day. So it's done before the playoffs. They identify the semifinalist, and then they vote and do the finalist, and then the winner. Now they don't know. They're not seeing each other's votes, but it's all done that day.
And it's probably
so it didn't matter what Hazard did in the playoffs.
It's probably the way they have to do it, or maybe it is. But the Wilcos, we include the postseason.
Dang right we do. We include all results.
All of them.
All of them. So, and again, man, nobody wants to hear this, but those guys, who knows? Hopefully they're getting reimbursed for their travel, but they're not getting paid any extra money to do this. So. I always try to think about it that way. Like, hey, man, it's not perfect. This is what I would say. If you're a finalist, heck of a year, man.
No doubt. Now, listen, my home state now is Tennessee, but I was just doing a little research. In the great state of Kentucky, which is where I'm from, they've got one Mr. Foot. It's one guy.
There's been some people voting, pushing for that.
Like, it's one person.
Well, and you
regardless of class.
You also have one state basketball champion, right?
One.
And public, private, big, little.
And it's awesome.
Right. And we're trying to figure out how to get 5.
We're trying to get 19 people a state title. I saw the other day, I was thinking about this, and I get people doing it, but I think you have to alter the way you do it moving forward. You know how some people have the banners that'll say like district champions, and they just put the years Well, some people have like region qualifiers. Well, we've got schools all across the state, and go ahead and stick the number in there because there's only 4 teams in the region.
That's right.
Or in the district. Because 4 make it, so, hey, we hadn't started the year, but somebody give me that sticker. We made the region.
If you're really good at negotiating your contract, you get region qualifier put in one of the incentives to where you get a bump. Well, I've told you, I'm not going to go on my rant, but I'm a semi-rant. That's my problem with like letter jackets. Like, okay, if you want to do it, that's fine, that's great, but don't be putting Region 4A third place finisher on the on the letter jacket, man. That's brutal.
I like the Letterman jacket, so.
Yes.
But I'm not.
But you're not putting.
No, I'm not putting any of that.
District Tournament Qualifier 2023 on there. Play-in game.
Play-in game champion. All right, let's talk about this. TSSAA, big legislative council meeting.
Yep.
There were like 12 proposals. Lots of proposals this year. A couple that really impact the folks that live here. Swimming was proposed by Elizabethan, of all places. I was like, that seems interesting that they proposed it. It was denied. Girls flag football, which was proposed by Franklin High School, tabled until the spring meeting. They want to do a little more research. And here's something I was excited about. There's something that they came up with called emerging sports. Basically what that means is this. If you've got 20% of the membership that says, hey, we're committed to playing, then they'll recognize it as an emerging sports category, and then once 25% play it, they'll have a state championship. I think that's a great idea.
I do too. Do you know if we got that 20% yet, or is that still tabled till the spring?
That's part of it, and then this is going to, I feel like it's all going to be talked about again at the same time. Like, hey, we've got this percentage talking about playing. Maybe they'll get in that category right away. But you can just bank on it.
It's going to happen.
Girls flag football is happening.
So when you say tabled, that was by the legislative council.
That's right.
Correct?
They want to talk more about it.
I think sometimes people get Board of Control, Legislative Council confused. Legislative Council votes on these kind of ticket items, for lack of a better word, legislation.
But here's what does happen, and they don't always go with it, but they do a lot of times. When they have the regional meetings, Middle Tennessee has a meeting, West Tennessee has a meeting, East Tennessee. So they let the membership vote on these proposals. Doesn't mean they're going to hold them to it, but a lot of times they do.
Right.
Go, oh, okay, here's what people want, we need to go with it. I do think the thing about the emerging sports, here's the reason I like it. That's a lot of pressure on very few people to make a decision. It's more, hey, you guys prove that people want to play it at the club level or whatever it is, tell us who's committed to playing, then we'll make it sport. I will say this, because I believe in the education system, we ought to be providing opportunities for folks.
I do too.
I don't think it's a problem having swimming and flag football and lots of sports. And if your school system doesn't want to play it, don't play it.
Right.
I'll tell you this with lacrosse. I was talking to the folks in Sumner County. Now, Sumner County, you tell me, is that the 3rd or 4th wealthiest county in the state?
Oh, the top 5 for sure.
So let's just be honest about it. When it comes to lacrosse, the wealthy districts and schools tend to play it.
Right.
In Sumner, they don't even know if they're going to have one team. So the state championship's definitely going to run through Wilco.
Yes.
May not even have to go anywhere else.
Memphis, Wilco, a little bit of Knoxville.
Right?
Hey, out of curiosity, because we've got really good swimming here in Williamson County and in Williamson County school systems. Any insight to why it was denied?
No. Here's what I think it is, honestly. And I'm not in the minds of that, but it just came up as a proposal. Girls flag football has been a pilot. I think you got to crawl before you walk. It's like the first discussion about it. That's what happened with lacrosse. The lacrosse folks kept coming back and doing what they were asked to do.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting lacrosse because of it. It would be interesting to me if the emerging sports thing would have been around, what would have happened with it. Because I don't think nearly the number of schools are playing lacrosse that are going to play flag. Right. And really, maybe even swimming.
I didn't know if, not everybody has a swim facility.
That's right. That's part of it. We would obviously have to partner. And work
we
with,
don't. I mean,
right.
And I would love to know why, but up until in Rutherford County, up until they started Blackman, Siegel, Rockville, am I missing one? Oakland, Smyrna, Laverne, Riverdale all have pools. The new ones they quit building in there. I wonder what that was about. So I figured that has something to do with it. You know.
Is anything more misplaced than a pool at Smyrna?
Yes, Laverne.
But you know, it's interesting. So we're sure the folks are going, okay, we don't care. But this is important.
It is important.
The Millard School District, which is, we're part of a consortium. Basically, it's a fancy way of saying it's like-minded schools.
Okay.
So I go visit the Millard School, and it's like freezing up there. They've all got pools. It just seemed like, it's like it'd be a warm weather state. But no, they've all got indoor aquatics, and it's big time. It's coming here. I think it is, and certainly we would be all for it in Williamson County schools.
Guess what? Because I go to the state swim meet, state championship swim meet, we'll be winning that one too.
Let's just keep adding them. We'll just keep winning. Another thing that came up, this is some breaking news. 8 days of off-season practice now allowed in all sports that maybe couldn't have it up until this point in a 15-day period. Here's what off-season means. When you get beat through the end of the school year, that's considered the off-season.
Gotcha.
So it'll let folks do tryouts and some different things during that particular time. So that's a little bit of a change just to make it consistent for all sports. Now, Tate, I know you're going to be disappointed and maybe even call out our man. Bowling. Girls District. Independence loses to Creekwood in the semis. Franklin loses to eventual champion Dixon in the semis. On the boys' side, Ravenwood loses to Dixon in the semis. Franklin loses to eventual champion Creekwood in the semis. In that district, which is most of our schools except Page and Nolensville, Page and Nolensville still have to bowl this week. We don't have any teams or any individuals in the state, and we've been talking some serious trash on this show.
Yes.
So it's kind of making the host look bad.
Yeah, we basically laughed, scoffed at the notion that there was a chance that this could even happen. So I don't know what's going on. I know this. It's kind of like a couple years ago, everybody was saying Saban was done. Hey, Coach Logan, I know this is a one-time.
He's motivated.
This is a one-time exception, and we're getting ready to get back where our rightful place in the state in bowling is. But
we're not putting him on notice exactly.
no, we're not putting him on notice. But
if we're having this conversation next year, maybe.
Yeah, like there's going to have to be a powwow. By the way, I went bowling Friday. Franklin Lanes.
How'd you do?
183.
Oh.
Pretty strong.
That's strong.
Yeah.
That may be, so your role in bowling could actually be even better than your role, you know, you brought the young people up, you always like to mention.
Yes.
And what was the name of the team?
Well, flag football was the Mavericks.
The Mavericks.
But then the baseball, we were the Nationals, Cardinals one time.
Bowling.
But the Mavericks is where a lot of them have just, trade door. The list just goes on and on.
You've had them all.
Brentwood Middle School Hall of Famer Coach Mickey Johnson's son Dalton was on the Mavericks as well. Coach Johnson would show up. And then during the week, he'd give me some criticisms, some critiques.
Coach Logan, we kid because we care, but I know he's disappointed and teams in the district. We'll be back.
He's already working on next year.
We'll be back. We'll be back. Basketball. Let's talk a little hoops. Lots of non-district matchups taking place here in the early season. Once we get back in January, it's on, Tate.
Yes.
Congratulations, Jet Montgomery, Independence. He eclipses 2,000 points for his career. Did that in a matchup against Cane Ridge that they won. Grayson Murphy has 2,093, so he's getting ready to be the all-time leading scorer. That's pretty good. When over 2,000, and I'm sure when Grayson got that 2,093, the talk was, man, that'll never be.
Correct.
Like 6 years later, it's over.
Well, let's look at it this way. What's Jet averaging? About 20 points a game?
Not sure this year. Let's call it 18
Ish.
to 20-ish,
Okay.
yeah.
With tournaments, do you think there's a chance between now and January 1 that Independence plays 5 to 6 games?
Yes.
he could break that before January 1. And think about the caliber of a player Grayson Murphy was.
Great player. Jet will end up with 2,500 points.
That doesn't happen often, right?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Don't see it much. Don't see it much at all. Speaking of Independence, the boys had a great win at Hillsboro. I think most would say, and we're going to throw Ravenwood in there too, but most of the pundits would say the two teams in boys in the region, well, they're not in the region together. Let's just talk mid-state because now we split up.
We're going to have to see each other. Would that be safe?
That's right. In the sub-state, I think most people would say it's Indy, Ravenwood, Hillsboro, Green Hill, and most would say in mid-state the two best teams are Independence, Hillsboro. Indy goes on the road, wins 57-49, proving they can win a low-scoring game, which I liked.
Yep.
Jet Montgomery, 17, Tylen Lewis, 17, Bradley Stewart, 9. I think he's a big key for their team. And here's what I like. Jet, the scoring's a little bit more balanced. And I think they're better because of it. I mean, Jet needs to get 30, he'll get 30, but I like that the balance is there. When you've got two guys in double figures and a third right on the cusp, and you only score 57 points, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great. And we kind of started to see this towards the end of last season, right? Tylen
We did.
scoring more, the balance of the scoring. But, you know better than, you know as well as all of them. Here's what I took from that. You know what the Hillsboro Rodney Thweatt teams are about, what they're built on, and they are tough. So I think because of the way Independence plays, so many times, I think some of your teams got mislabeled, but I would think that maybe some people wouldn't necessarily think of Independence as a tough team. You go in and beat Hillsboro at Hillsboro 57-49. That tells me this Independence Eagles team, not only are they talented and athletic, but they're tough. You don't beat those guys without being tough.
Very accurate.
I mean, you just don't.
Something we've said it on this show too. I've always said, when you have three people in double figures consistently, you probably have a good team.
Yeah.
And Independence is a good team. Speaking of good teams, Ravenwood and Nowensville's boys, both 7-0 now. Ravenwood with the win over Coffee County, 62-45. Nowensville boys wins over Fairview and Rockvale. Now, the Ravenwood girls lost to Coffee like 72-30. If you look at our 8 teams that are going to advance, once you get to the semi, so we'll have 4 from our district, 4 from that other district. Once it gets to the semifinals, we're going to have 7 of the 8. Coffee County girls are probably going to be in there.
The Coffee County girls probably going to be in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, so I still think boys' side, we'll have all 4. It'll be a sweep. So just get out of our district and be able to handle it. Now, here's something else I liked. I went to that Fairview-Nowensville game at Nowensville. Fairview lost to Nowensville boys by like 30 a couple of weeks ago. This was a 13-point game, but I'm telling you it was close throughout. Credit to Coach McGowan, Coach McCoy. They keep scheduling these tough games. Great atmosphere, too. Andrew McCullen hit 6 big threes in the win for Nowensville versus Fairview. Nowensville girls beat Fairview 46-35. Leilani Washington with the big night, as usual, for Coach Lett. He's got a young team, but they're getting better, too.
Yeah, and Leilani picking up where she left off last year.
She's tough.
She's tough.
I like the Fairview girls defeating Hickman County, too.
Me too.
Maddie Brewer was 16. They had lost by like 8 or 9 at home.
Yeah.
They play them at Hickman. They win. It's that schedule.
And Hickman kind of thumbs their nose at their Wilco neighbors when it comes to basketball. I love that. That's a great win.
Hickman. Centerville Country Club, home of Dr. Jeremy Qualls.
The Adeletville dump.
Franklin.
Hey, Barry Wortman ain't coming back, okay?
No, he's not. Franklin boys and girls with the sweep over Cane Ridge on the girls' side. I had to do a double take on this one. Sophomore. First of all, you always talk about Cane Ridge, well coached.
That's right.
53-41, Cecily Brandamore, 20 points, 23 rebounds. Have yourself a night, Cecily.
That is about as good as it gets.
Gosh, 23 rebounds? I mean, I don't know if they...
That's prime Shaq, You know, I mean, I don't even know who.
Kate O'Neal had some games like that.
Yes, she did. Yeah, that's prime Shaq. That's Giannis numbers right there.
Sophomore.
Sophomore. Good win for them.
Loved it. On the boys' side, 70-63 Franklin. Christian Brown, 19 points, 9 rebounds and a block. Sam Mewburn, 18. Davis Long, 14. Look, 3 in double figures.
Can I ask a question? I'm the one asking this, so no one can accuse you of being a homer.
Uh-oh, here we go.
I feel like Franklin boys are flying under the radar.
I agree.
Because of all the attention Independence is getting, and they should. And then here's Ravenwood 7-0.
Nolensville 7-0.
Nolensville 7-0. I think people are sleeping on Franklin, and I think it is going to be a mistake in the long run.
I agree. And I tell you somebody else they're sleeping on. They were Nolensville a little bit, but now they get everybody's attention. Has anybody been talking about Centennial at all? Because they lost some games. They don't have their. I'm telling you.
Football guys are back. They're still not right, but they're getting right. Yeah.
Don't play a district game until January 2nd, so it'll be good. Tate wrestling.
Yeah, I'm fired up.
I'm excited about this. So in wrestling, they have a state ranking that comes out that they don't really divide it up by class, but it's the one they all look to.
Not only do they not divide it up by class, they don't divide it up by D1, D2.
That's correct.
It's everybody.
Everybody. And it's the one that they all look to in terms of the poll.
Right.
I don't know if you can remember this happening. 4th, Summit. 7th, Brentwood. 8th, Nolensville.
Right.
I don't know if I remember us having 3 in the top 8 like that.
No, that's good. It's fantastic. It's been a long time, if ever. And here's the thing you need to I did not see this poll, but I'm guessing number 1 is Baylor.
Baylor was 1.
Well, they're doing what they're doing in football. They're getting wrestlers from all over the country, all over the globe.
Get any Canadians on the squad? Or is that McCauley?
If there's any good ones, yes. They'll go wherever, okay? I'm guessing Father Ryan's number 2.
Father Ryan's in there. They're 2
And
or
then
3.
I'm guessing Cleveland's 3.
That's right.
So
They're all in the mix up there,
Yep.
yes.
So Summit to be 4th, that's really something.
Well, and speaking of Summit, they go up to the Al Miller duels in Cleveland. That's a legit tournament.
Correct.
They get beat in the final, 45-24. Cleveland takes care of them. But the thing that really stood out to me, they go head-to-head with Bradley. They win 53-30.
Right.
The duels, depending on how the draw goes, I think they'll make the final. Hopefully they'll be opposite Cleveland. Now, the other schools are going, what about us? Are we? I mean,
Chop liver.
I think we can have a couple go, but I think it's Summit.
Well, Brentwood's, they're not chop liver.
No, they're
they've
good.
been, yeah, and we've talked about it. They went down, I think, did they go down to Alabama?
They went this past week,
Macaulay, that's right. They went to Alabama last week.
That's right.
And, every tournament they've been in so far, they've got about 8 medalists. So they've got a complete team, too.
And that gets it done
at
in
duel.
the traditional.
I mean, at the traditional, yeah.
Because you got to accumulate those points.
Right.
So I feel like Summit and Brentwood have a better chance in the traditional tournament.
But it also gets it done in the duels, because if you got 8 out of 14 medalists, that means you've got 8 really good
Right.
wrestlers. I mean,
That's right. But, in the duels, one of the things, I love the duels, by the way.
it's awesome.
I just, it's my favorite. I like, too, how they'll mess with the weights and they'll go a little here and they move the lineups a little bit. I love it. They all run
Chess
up
match.
they run up to the scores table and check in. They announce it like default or whatever, and then that guy walks off. Like, why did he even have to come up here? But I like how it's got this ritual. I love the duels.
Yeah.
I ever tell you the story about Mark Reeves saying something? It was Mark Reeves, executive director, TSSAA. It was in the COVID year. Fairview is wrestling at Nolensville. It's the duels, and I'm in the corner. I usually kind of keep it. I don't get too up and too down, especially if we're going against each other. But this was Fairview and Pigeon Forge in the semis, or maybe it was the final. And I got kind of fired up. Somebody pinned somebody, and I
Was
gave
there
it.
some fist
I
bumping?
got fired up.
Yeah.
Mark Reeves slipped up behind me and said, "And you thought basketball was exciting, didn't you?"
Well, Mark Reeves was a great wrestler. And he wrestled for a Hall of Famer and Coach Randy Thomas. Coach Thomas didn't call it wrestling.
Wrestling?
No, fighting.
Oh,
He said, "Hey, Coach, this is Coach Thomas. How about I bring my boys down there and they can get on a match? Your boys, my boys will fight." Mark's a little more polished.
He's more
than Coach
polished.
Thomas.
Looks like he can still wrestle, though.
Oh, yeah. Cauliflower. Hey, man, you know that. Everybody. You look at those ears and you know that guy's not right. And, hey, we can't sleep on Nolensville either, 8th. We've been talking about this. They've been building. Coach Melzoni's got that thing building. They got anytime you can trot Trey McTorrey out on the mat, that's probably.
You've been talking about him for 2 or 3 years.
Well, I mean,
you were on it. Nice get.
Big time. Yeah. He gets it on us, too. His daddy was one of the all-time greats. Like, I'm talking all-time.
Hey, before we move on from Summit, I want to give it up to their girls.
Yep.
Wrestled at the Ramsey Rumble in
Gateway
Siegel.
Tire Athlete of the Week.
Taylor Parkhurst.
Yep.
Finley Craig, they both finished second. Samantha O'Leary, fourth. So here comes Summit. And I noticed Fairview's got a pretty full squad this year on the girls' side, which I like. Brentwood, we mentioned, third at the McCauley Invitational, another great tournament. 39 teams, they finished third. Clark Vaughn wins the individual championship. So Tate, in this particular one, let's educate our audience here. So Summit, it's a duel. It's me against you.
Yep.
In the McCauley, they do it like the traditional tournament. You add up the points for how you do individually, and they calculate it that way.
Correct.
So it gets you ready for both. You want to have some duels kinds of tournaments and meets, and you want to have some individuals, which gets you ready for the traditional.
That's right, because they are different. And but the great thing about them is whether it was a duel or an invitational, you look at where they're going. These are legit tournaments. We always talk about the Johnny Drennan Invitational now, the Father Ryan Invitational. Out east, that's what the Al Miller is, the McCauley Invitational. Those are the tournaments. You come out of there, you do well there, you're on everybody's radar.
Not the narrow white Macon County Christmas tournament.
Don't even know what it is.
It's tournament.
You talking about the Lafayette? Don't call me Lafayette.
Can't trust people who don't pronounce things right.
That's right.
Nolensville. Speaking of Nolensville, they win the Clarksville Slam Fest Championship. Again, that's a duel. And I know maybe they're not quite what they've been, but when you roll into Clarksville and you win 39-21, you've done something. Congratulations. You've been talking about Nolensville all year. You've been talking about Brentwood all year, on and off the air. Love it.
I love what Coach Belzoni's got going. And he's
got the youth program. You like talking about that?
He's following the blueprint, man. That's the blueprint. If you don't have it, you can have some good teams here or there, but you're not building a wrestling program without it. You're just not. And then you're going to run into those two from Chattanooga.
That's right.
And now you're going to run into Summit, and you're going to leave with your feeling. Your feelings being hurt are the least of your problems. You're going to get your tail kicked.
After fighting.
If you didn't see the part before, go back and watch it.
Page, 4-1 at the I-40 Clash hosted by Stone Memorial. Earlier in the week, Fairview.
You know what the great thing about the I-40 Clash is?
What's that?
You know where Stone Memorial is. You get off, you go left.
Oh, you're going to talk about somewhere to eat, aren't you?
To the right is Buc-ee's.
Oh, they stopped on the way back. I saw where Coach Gray, they said, hey, got to stop at Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
And you ever notice the wrestling teams, and the wrestlers are a little different. I don't think I'm reaching.
They wear that as a badge of honor, though.
It seems like in their pictures, I don't think they did in this one, but they always have like one guy they're holding up. They'll be like,
right.
I don't really know what's going on, but
they're wrestlers.
got to be tough, got to be different.
That's a good win.
Hey, and I've said this too about wrestling, which I think it's probably one of those sports. It's hard to get people to wrestle once they get to the 9th and 10th grade if they hadn't done it a little bit. I mean, you walk out there and it's like, okay, here I am, and everybody's watching, and it's me and another person. That's tough, man. I got a lot of respect for the wrestlers.
If I was a football coach.
And you wrestled.
Oh, yeah.
Helped your football, right?
Helps everything. I've always said this. I'm not trying to be funny. You can be a sissy and wrestle and still be a sissy, okay? But it is impossible. It is impossible to go through an entire wrestling season and not be tougher at the end than what you started off. Now, you still might be soft, but you're not as soft as you were when you started. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. If I was the head football coach, I would make, within the rules, I would encourage every single one of my linemen to wrestle.
I would have loved for my basketball players to
questions
wrestle. I really would have. But you can't really do it with the same season.
Right. That's tough. But maybe, a little bit in the off season. But it's just, it's good for so many things. Footwork, your hands, and again, conditioning. And like you said, man, that's a sport where you go out there and it's you and that other guy, and you can't blame it on, well, he didn't get back on defense, or he missed a block, or
right.
It's mano y mano.
Well, I like too, again, I wish this like wrestling show here, but it's so fun. I like how sometimes, as long as you don't get pinned, you've done your job.
That's right.
Like, you may be significantly better than me, but if you don't pin me, you don't get as many points.
Well, right. I told you that, right? Coach Dalton, he would literally, in the big matches, he would go through every weight class. Now, you want to talk about another thing that's kind of humbling, is he'd go through it, and he'd tell you, Joins, needs you to win, okay? You don't have to win by pin, but it needs you to win. And then the next guy, we need you to win by pin. And I've seen it. Mathews, just don't get pinned.
Okay, Coach.
In other words, I know you have no chance of winning. Just don't get stuck on your back, man. Because, 3 points, 5 points, 6 points. So here's the other thing I love about wrestling. I was glad to see this too. There was a push by those that probably weren't wrestlers. They thought they changed it to where you could wear the two-piece, and the fight shorts and the compression top. They thought that would that would increase participation in wrestling. I've noticed nobody's really ordering that stuff anymore. Those guys don't want that, man. The guys that are going to be out on the mat, they want to be in the singlet. Gals, I'm sorry.
They want the Dutch Mantel singlet.
They want that's right, Dutch Mantel. Very good.
The Dirty Dutchman.
Look it up. Yeah, or King Kong Bundy, but with 2 straps. Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. Are we about to wrap up?
We're wrapping up.
TACA East-West All-Star Game. We had a lot of guys that really made us proud, as they always did. Baylor Hayes had a really nice game.
I heard the No Excuses squad was.
Dominic Reed had a really nice game. DJ Curl had a really nice game. Proud of those guys. Glad they got to participate in it. And as always, they represented us well.
And the gear looked great.
Have you been seeing any of the other All-Star games on Twitter?
It's not good.
It's not even close.
It's not good.
But that's Mr. Marbett and Mr. Coach Plum. Right?
And you got to have the gear, which
You got to have the gear. You got to have the connect.
which you know a little bit about that.
Yes, I know, yeah.
Tate, appreciate it. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Looking forward to 2024.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for joining us for Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.